Chances are, if you live in the United States or if you ever go on any type of social media, you've seen these big packs of kids on bikes, big 29-inch bikes, doing wheelies in the street. They like to get in these big groups and they kind of just ride around and do wheelies. It seems like it's harmless on paper, and it kind of is. Most of the time, you know, there's not much issue to what they're doing. They do this thing where they like to swerve in front of cars. They like to ride into oncoming traffic and then swerve at the last second. And I think it's the dumbest thing ever, but it's like, it's cool to them. And, you know, also just basically riding around in a group, sometimes causing havoc, but then usually just kind of, you know, just riding around. I've been riding bikes pretty much my entire life, and the whole big bike wheelie thing phenomenon, I feel like really started catching on the last like 5 to 6 years. It's been around forever. You know, there's groups of people that ride these bikes and they just chill, you know, some pop wheelies. Most of the time it's fine, but it's like a recent phenomenon, I want to say, within the last probably 4 to 7 years. It's kind of a big time frame to where it's like a bunch of teenage boys, like from 11 to 17 is usually the age range in which you see like the most chaotic stuff happen. And you get these kids in a group, unsupervised, no adults. They're all it's just a bunch of, it's literally a bunch of kids on these bikes. And they like at this age, they realize that they have power in numbers, right? You get like 60 of them together and all of a sudden no one wants to mess with them. They start taking over traffic. They ride on the wrong side of the road and they pretty much own the streets from what I see when I see the mobs of them riding around. I mean, they call these big BMX bikes. That's kind of what they are. When I think of BMX, I think 20-inch, you know, small like trick bike, but these are big BMX bikes and they become super popular. I owned one for a little while and it's a lot of fun to just ride around, sometimes pop wheelies. But the new thing is, it's not necessarily even a new thing. These kids get together, they start wheeling and they love swerving on cars. That is where I think the majority of the problems come with when you get these kids in groups. They love swerving on cars. They like riding against traffic on the other side of the street towards oncoming cars, wheeling towards them and then swerve out of the way, kind of like they're playing chicken with them, right? That's kind of the point. It's like they're showing their dominance over the car on the bicycle. And that's it. That's kind of the point. That's the whole, there's not much else that they do. Now, there's a whole other host of things that these kids in these groups do that we're going to talk about. They mass rob stores. They like straight up loot 7-Elevens and small liquor stores from chips and cookies. It sounds made up, right? It sounds crazy, but this is really what goes down, at least in LA. I can't speak for anywhere else. I know this is happening in LA. I know firsthand that it's happening out here. I don't know. I would assume it's also probably going on in other major cities, maybe New York, maybe Miami. Big reason why I think it's happening in LA is because crime is legal out here. Everyone knows that, allegedly. You can kind of get away with stuff out here. It seems like there's, hopefully that changes soon. But by and large, if no one stops you from doing a crime right then and there, you pretty much got away with it. And a lot of the times these kids get together in these groups and they realize, you know, there's 70 of them. They get up in a 7-Eleven and they pretty much can just take whatever they want up out of there and probably get away. And that typically is how it goes down. Now, that's starting to change, though. Check out this. 6 months ago, NBC did a story, search for teens in 7-Eleven flash mob robberies in LA County. Now, this has been going on for a really long time. I think people are just now starting to, know about it. Just like, the news cycle, news decides to bring attention to a thing, and now people know about it. This has been going on for a while. I know firsthand that this has been happening for a while. And as of recently, I think people are like, it's impossible to ignore. It really started ramping up during COVID. But now it's like, now it's kind of more on the radar, at least out here in LA. So we're going to watch this. Search for teens in 7-Eleven flash mob robberies in LA County.
After July 12th, there's now been 14, including this one here behind us along Beverly Boulevard here in Westlake. We can tell you that tonight the LAPD is releasing surveillance video and photos, hoping that someone will recognize those in the pictures. They're in and out within minutes.
Okay, so here's the first thing I want to point out. These are kids. These are teenage boys. They got to be like 13, 14, 15, 16. To me, that's a kid. I'm 32. These are children, right? They just are completely unaware probably of the consequences of their actions. They're in a group. They got the group mentality, the mob mentality is in full effect. They see some of their friends getting free stuff. They want free stuff too. That's just what's going on. Look, they're smiling and laughing, and it's insane. It's insane. If I had to guess, the average age of this group is probably 15. It's probably somewhere around there.
Photos, hoping that
just so you get an idea of the age group we're talking about here.
They're in and out within minutes, but the destruction they leave behind can cause thousands of dollars in damage.
They're very brazen. They are not
even attempting to cover in their face,
or they're not worried about being seen.
LAPD Detective Supervisor Samuel Arnold is talking about so-called flash mob robberies targeting 7-Elevens across LA.
Look, this kid, like these kids, some of those kids look like 12. They're probably even younger than that. You know, you could come out here with your older brother and, you know, suddenly you're committing crimes.
Large groups of 20 to 40 people.
And look at this, bro. This is actually horrible. Imagine being this dude. It looks like he's trying to keep the doors shut from this mob of kids on bikes trying to break into the store and steal stuff. Like, what are you supposed to do to defend yourself against that? I mean, you can't just start shooting kids. I know that's probably realistically what probably a lot of people are like, just open fire. You know, you can't, like, me personally, I'm like, what are you supposed to do in that situation? Me, if I'm a 7-Eleven employee, I'm out of there. I'm taking the back door. I am locking myself in the emergency room. It ain't my problem, right? I'll get fired, whatever. These kids some of them are ruthless, man. I'm gonna be honest, some of them are ruthless. But if you're the owner, it's a little different, right? Like, what are you supposed to do? You're just sitting there watching probably your entire month's earnings just get wiped away. Just in 4 minutes, just completely gone. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Most of them minors rushing into stores,
that's crazy. Look, he's like, I'm out of here.
Items and causing damage.
It's like the horde.
They've done this so many times in so many different locations that
they come in, like, so many kids are walking in, you can't even keep track of what's going on. You really have no idea. Even if they're not like brazen with it, if they're like being sneaky about taking stuff, it seems like it'd be pretty much impossible to figure out who's taking what. I mean, you got security cameras, but if the police don't decide to, take any action after the crime has happened, then, you're kind of stuck. In this situation, they did, though.
Understand that
and this is not just one that we're looking at. This is multiple.
More eyes than we do.
That's why today, LAPD released surveillance photos of dozens of different people they say are involved in these robberies in hopes people will identify them and notify investigators.
They're not all even children. Just shoplifting. They're going in and deliberately.
All children. Look, as far as I can see, these are all kids. They look like kids. Look at this. This dude right here is like, what? You mean we could just walk in and take stuff? Oh, man. Yeah, this guy's making an attempt to cover his face at least.
They're not even just shoplifting. They're going in and deliberately knocking over expensive items, coffee makers, merchandise, sunglasses, and just completely destroying the store.
See, that's the part that really is not going to get, if like the act alone didn't get anyone on their side, I'm sure someone can make the argument like, these kids can't afford stuff. Let's not even go there, right? But when you're just in there like recklessly vandalizing for no reason, that's when I think it's pretty fair to just draw the line and say, all right, it's time to start prosecuting and like actually try and take some action to have some accountability for the crimes being committed. But, what do I know? What do I know?
Arnold says 14 7-Elevens in LA have been hit since July. And with the exception of one, they've all taken place on Fridays between the hours of 6 to 9 p.m. The large group of teens show up on bikes, rush into the store, and they leave just in time not to get caught.
My question is like, what is there even worth taking in a 7-Eleven? A 7-Eleven is like a CVS with less stuff in it. It's just chips, soda, water, alcohol. But like, I think in most 7-Elevens, alcohol's locked. You can't get back there. Like someone has to have a key. So they're just taking like chips and snacks and soda and like ice cream. Like what is it? I don't understand how it's worth it. So that brings me to believe it's more about the thrill of them like going in mass and just robbing stuff. That's like the fun part. Just them breaking in, or not necessarily breaking in, but all of them in a group, just going in and taking stuff. That's the entire fun of the flash mob aspect of it, just getting in and being in a group, and you feel like you can get away with it because there's so many other people doing the same thing.
This is of some of these juveniles, they're having a good time. They're enjoying it. And that is what we need to let them understand. There's no way, shape, or form that this behavior is going to be condoned or allowed.
Detectives are now trying to determine which group is behind the series of robberies, and one thing that can help them is if people identify some of these individuals they say are responsible.
Here's my 2 cents. It's not a group behind the robberies. The way that newscaster just phrased it makes it sound like this is a coordinated or a concerted effort and like there's like a ringleader. Nah, man, it's just like when kids are out on bikes, they see other kids on bikes and they just hook up together. They just start riding together. Like they just do this, right? That's good. That's the good part about riding bikes. You see, like when you're out riding a bike, you see someone else on a bike. Usually it's like a friendly wave, for adults. It's like, yo, we're both on a bike. We're both out like doing the bike thing. Here we go. Riding bikes today. But when you're a kid, it's a lot more social. Like you guys probably look similar. You're riding similar bikes. You go start talking to each other. You're from here. I'm from there. All right, we're riding together now. And then the group grows, right? How these start is kind of like just a bigger version of that. Like big groups of kids start running into other big groups of kids, and then you get to this somehow. I don't know how it gets from the fun part, the good bike riding part, to like mass robbery, but somewhere in between that disconnect happens, and then you get this. But I don't think it's like an organized effort, as if they're like hitting each other up on Instagram, like, all right, look, tomorrow we're gonna meet up at 4 p.m. and then we're gonna go. I mean, but maybe it is actually. Now that I say it out loud, maybe it is like that. I don't think so, but it's possible, I guess.
We'll be coming either to your house, we'll be coming to your school, and you got to stop, because it's not going to be a freebie.
And if anybody recognizes anyone in the surveillance video or those pictures, they're being asked to call the LAPD. A lot of people think of 7-Eleven, they think a big corporation, but in reality, most of these locations are family-owned or individually owned. That's why the LAPD tells us they're going to step up patrols beginning tomorrow right away.
Crazy. You would think the parents would get involved too. Like you would think like kids' parents are going to start cracking down and being like, hey, that's my kid on CBS or NBC, like he's on nighttime news. But then again, maybe not. Here's something else I saw. Undercover cop tackles and arrests kid on a bike. This clip, I think, just started getting spread around today. But I mean, this clip kind of shows where public perception is with these groups of. Here's another clip I saw earlier today. This one I think is like a fresh piece of footage. It just started getting shared today or yesterday. This kind of really shows what the perception is around big groups of kids on bikes now. It's like once they're spotted, people are immediately suspicious. And whether or not like they're actually up to no good, they now have the reputation when you see a large group of kids on wheelie bikes, it's like, get out of the way, like avoid them at all costs, right? It's like they're going to be up to no good and you want to get away because they're probably going to do something reckless. Like even if they aren't, and if they don't, and if there are actually just kids like riding around trying to have fun, it's assumed that they may do something crazy. So it's kind of like, get out of the way. Anyways, undercover cop tackles and arrests kid on a bike. Take a look at this. This is actually insane. Cop kind of runs him over.
Stop! Yo! Stop it!
That's insane. So, Broward County, that's Florida, right? What I know about Broward County, they don't mess around down there. Not my buddy Dan the Man. They don't mess around in like anywhere in Florida, but anytime I hear anything about Broward County, it's like insane, right? Let's go and watch that again. This is actually nuts. This is clearly a child, right? So here's the thing. We don't have context for the clip. We don't have any context. It's just it's an isolated clip in this moment. It seems like they're aiming for this kid, right? They really look like the way he hops out and ignores everybody around him and goes straight for that kid makes you think the kid may have done something to irritate this cop, possibly, who knows? Without full context, it's impossible to tell. This kid recording looks like he's making a vlog or something. So maybe there's like a full-length YouTube video or something we can find in the future and get some more information about. One thing I always say is anytime you're out riding a bike or anything, two wheels, motorcycle, anything, have a GoPro rolling, man. You get stuff like this, for better or for worse, whether you just want to post it or you need evidence for something. It's always good to have a GoPro. I don't know what it is about everybody. If you're riding something outside with two wheels, something crazy is probably going to happen to you that day. It's just like, it's one of those things. It's part of life. I don't know. I don't make the rules. It just is what it is. And sure enough, today it happened to these cats. But anyways, as we can see, it's pretty aggressive the way he jumped out and tackled this kid, probably like 13, 14 years old.
Stop!
Yo! Stop it! Nah, he's mad. That sheriff was really mad. And the rest of the sheriffs pull up and go straight to that kid too. So, I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's a crazy clip, but like without full context, it's really impossible to tell like why it happened. The kid doesn't look like he's too hurt. They pull him right up. You know, I mean, I don't know. This is another thing I want to point out. When you're near this kid right here and you're in the group, in the mob, it doesn't seem like anything nothing can happen, right? It doesn't seem like there'll be any consequence for your action when you guys are just out riding around. Maybe the cops will be tailing you, but it's like, screw the cops. You know, they ain't going to do nothing until they do something and they pick one of you. And it happens to be you. It sucks. It sucks. I hate to see this kid get tackled. I don't know why. I would love to know why. This clip is actually like really insane without context. It looks like a really aggressive sheriff just tackling a child. But I'm led to believe that there's a reason that he picked this kid to tackle, right? And almost run over. The almost running over part, I think, is not justifiable. That's excessive, right? And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of problems with this down the line, this particular clip. And I'm just gonna say, good thing they got this on camera, because nobody would believe this kid if he was like, dude, a cop ran me over and he tackled me. They'd be like, oh yeah, sure. But that's quite literally what happened here. He kind of got ran over. Like, that's pretty much getting run over right there. So I mean, that's a crazy clip. I want to see if there's any context here. What was outcome? Any link to the news story? The kid was the Springfield Ripper. He's serving 50 to life at Alcatraz now. The cop got a Purple Heart. Stubbed his toe. Great. I don't know. I looked up Broward County. Apparently got a problem with packs of kids just being dangerous idiots on bikes. I'm telling you, this is happening everywhere. Hard to say that kid looks singled out. That's what he wanted to say. Singled out with a pack right up there, a planned arrest. Look at this. Further down in the comments, WTF was that for? Don't know the context here, but in LA, there are takeovers where dozens of hundreds of teens ride around disrupting traffic and getting into fights with pedestrians and motorists. Some motorist was recently beaten to death by a group of them. I don't think that happened. This whole thing is just insane. I don't think a motorist was beaten to death, but we're going to pull up the clip he's talking about because I actually know the exact incidents he's referring. This is the clip that he's talking about. I'm not actually going to play the clip because it's actually pretty graphic, and you can find it pretty easily. Here's the title right here in the top left. This guy didn't die. I'm pretty sure this is what he's referring to. This actually went nationwide. From what I heard from my outside sources, from people who ride bikes, I don't know anybody who was in these circles of the young packs of kids who do wheelies. I have gone on some of these rides before that were totally peaceful. It's like a bunch of people riding bikes in the street, right? I've been on plenty that were totally peaceful and fine. No problems happen. But it seems like when it's all kids, that's when the drama starts to break loose. What happened here? What apparently happened was there's a guy standing on the sidewalk yelling at the kids, just yelling at them, and then they decided to gang up on him. Is it justified? Absolutely not. But that's what happened, all right? So this looks like it was totally out of context. Like they just picked a stranger and started beating him and left him for dead. But the guy survived. I think he actually didn't even have any serious injuries, which goes to show the average strength of one of these kids and the fighting abilities of them is just nothing. So that's it's not funny, but I mean, it's just, it's something. I don't know what it is, but it's something. And yeah, he didn't die. So I think, but that's, most people are like, wow, these kids are just roaming the streets and just destroying property and taking people out left and right. I mean, that's what people think. So here's another crazy one. I think it's also crazy how many of these I can keep pulling up. If I keep going, they're just going to keep showing up. Man assaulted and mob attack. This was in the heart of downtown LA.
A car and beating up the driver who was just trying.
I'm trying not to show the actual fight, but basically a bunch of people pull this guy out of his car and start hitting him, and he was fine. Like they didn't land any significant blows because these are, again, teenagers. None of them actually know how to fight, or I don't think they're actually trying to kill. But it's still horrible and just stupid and wrong. And they trashed his car. They're jumping on it, and they opened up the doors and they took stuff out of it probably. So it's really disappointing all over. But like I said, this is a new problem. It's not it's not new in the sense that it's kind of been happening for a minute, but I feel like now a lot of people are paying attention to it. And also it is ramping up in the bravery that they have in just going out and doing this stuff. So I don't know. I would love to see it come to an end. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, though, if I'm being realistic. It's especially summer's coming, and LAPD has got a lot of stuff on its hands. So who knows how this actually plays out. Let me know if this is happening in your town. But yeah, crazy.